Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni muli wanji, jambo. Bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jadley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast, an iHeartRadio Best Kids and Family Podcast Award nominee. We are coming at you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted that you're part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. Please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast. Our guest today is Pam Allyn. We are so excited to welcome her back to help us get ready to celebrate World Read Aloud Day, happening next week, February 3rd. Before we invite Pam back into the studio, we want to invite you to visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Parents, if you go there, you can sign up for our newsletter. You can read our blog. You can visit our Certified Great Read Wall of Fame. There you're going to find loads and loads of really fantastic books that you can read aloud with your kids. It's a wonderful website. My daughter has rebuilt the website. There's all sorts of great features. If you're an author, you also want to check out the website to find out about how you can be a guest on the program and also find out about our Certified Great Read program. Oh, and if you're an educator, you can go there and find out how we can create a live virtual event for your kids in your school. Check it out today. So much there. Readingwithyourkids.com. Joining us right now from upstate New York, we're so excited to welcome back our friend, and she really has become a friend. Senior Literacy Advisor for Scholastic, founder of LitWorld, and the creator of World Read Aloud Day. Please welcome back Pam Allyn. Pam, how are you?
Great. I'm doing great. Great to see you and hear you again, Jed. It's always such a pleasure.
Oh, we are really excited to have you back on. World Read Aloud Day is such a wonderful event. It's, it's what our podcast is all about. Before we get into World Read Aloud Day and all the questions I have for you, I have to ask you, what does it feel like to be the creator of this day that's celebrated all over the world?
Well, first of all, it's amazing. I love it. I'm so proud and so overjoyed at how big it's gotten. But I will say, I do feel like the co-creator, because it was actually a little boy, a 7-year-old boy in a second grade class, who I believe was the original creator, because he's the one who gave me the idea for World Read Aloud Day. And he was the one who said to me, Mrs. Allyn, I love it when you read to us, and I wish you would just do it all the time, and I wish we could do it every day. And when I said, why can't we? And he said, because we have to take all these tests. And I said to him, well, but we all get better at tests when we have read aloud. So he was the one who said to me, I think we need to have a big party for the read aloud, because people need to know how great it is. So I consider him the co-creator, and I always attribute to him in my spirit. That was, a long time ago at this point, 12 years ago. So wow. He's all grown up. I hope he remembers or hears this one day, that it was a memorable conversation for him too, because, it was a joint effort, and LitWorld and Scholastic, these two entities, have created it with me, and every step of the way I can just offer gratitude to every single person in the world who has joined us in this incredible effort.
So, there's so much I want to talk about. Remind everybody what World Read Aloud Day is. It's happening February 3rd this year, so just a week away. What's it all about? Are we going to be outside on our balconies reading aloud together, or what?
Oh, I wish we could. I mean, I really do. Double masked, I would say, if you're going to do that. World Read Aloud Day we've made it the first Wednesday of every February, so it's an annual event. It's to celebrate the power of this incredible work that we do to read to children or people of all ages, that brings people together. It's also to really celebrate and amplify the actual importance of reading in people's lives and how good it makes us feel. We felt that reading is something you tend to do, obviously, by yourself a lot of the time, and also it's kind of inside your own mind. So World Read Aloud Day is a way to bring it out and make the power of reading more visible to everybody. And also the sheer fact that the Read Aloud is just a great thing to do for kids and people of all ages, your elders, your peers, your loved ones, people you don't know. It brings people together, makes people happy, and also teaches reading skills all at the same time. So World Read Aloud Day, February 3rd, and also the first February of every year. And basically this year obviously will be more virtual than any other year, but luckily a lot of us have gotten much better, and I say this for my mother because I'm sure she'll be listening, at like virtual togetherness. She didn't like that at first, but she does now, and I think a lot of people feel the same way. So let's make it virtual. Let's make it huge. You don't have to, it's not a lot of planning to do it. It's basically saying, I'm going to find someone to read to today. Maybe it's a child. Maybe it's an elder. Maybe it's somebody I love that I don't get to see very often. Maybe it is, like you said, run out on your balcony and just shout that read aloud to the skies and just really use your voice to amplify joy.
Yeah, I love that. And you're right. It's something I never thought about. The reading is a solitary kind of exercise, but when we're reading aloud, we're making that communal, and that sense of community is really powerful, I think.
It is so extraordinarily powerful that one of the things we found with World Read Aloud Day is people will write us afterwards and say, I always knew that I should do more of that with my kids, but on World Read Aloud Day, because everybody was just doing it for one day, it got me to realize how deeply meaningful it is. And it's such a simple thing to do, but it really conveys a big punch. And I think to your point about going from the solitary to the communal, wow. I mean, if ever there was a time we needed that, now's the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me, we know the benefits of reading, that when we're reading to our kids, they're picking up vocabulary, they're learning empathy, they're seeing themselves in different situations. But a lot of us just kind of like, okay, my kid can read on his own now. I don't need to do it. There are benefits to reading with our kids as they get into the middle grade years and even when they're teenagers. Can you talk a little bit about those benefits?
Definitely, and as a matter of fact, at Scholastic, every 2 years, Scholastic publishes what they call the Kid and Family Reading Report. And there's always an emphasis on the read aloud because they know that the world's largest children's book publisher, they know that the read aloud is a very, very important part of raising children and want to amplify that. And what they found is that over these last 12 years, reading aloud has only increased. Families will say, yes, we do it, but once children get to the middle school or upper elementary age, we notice and we see in the report that it actually tapers off, and their families are less likely to read aloud together or to a child or to a young adult. And what I want to say about that is that it's still very, very important to do this for a number of reasons. One, on the emotional side, is that we seem to think once a child, we don't do this with sports. So, for example, we don't say, once you know how to throw a baseball, I'm never going to throw a baseball with you again. What is that, Jed? That's like the craziest thing.
It really is. Talk about light dawning on yonder head here. Absolutely. And I remember when my kids were really young and we were reading aloud to them every day, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour a night. But there was something in the back of my mind. It's like, I can't wait until I can toss the ball around with these guys. And it wasn't something that my son loved to do a whole lot. But my daughter, every night, I think from the time she was 7 until she was 11, if she didn't have dance, we were out tossing the football around. And we'd be out between her dance classes tossing the football around. And, yeah, you're right. It's a natural when it comes to sports. It should be natural to continue to read with our kids as they become proficient.
Absolutely, and it is bonding. Yes. It is bonding. It's really bonding. And you don't have to, my dad always used to read aloud to us when I was in high school. He would read from the sports pages. He was a big Cleveland fan, unfortunately. He never really lived to see any greatness from them. But he never lost faith in his Cleveland teams. And he would read to us from all those local sports pages. I still carry his voice within me about that, the sound of those readings. And also, those are great stories. But the other thing, too, is about reading aloud to older children and young adults is that it is bonding, that's for sure. But also, it's actually educational. We can read aloud from, for example, like my dad did, different types of genres that I wouldn't have been reading on my own. We could also, we're really marinating our young people in the sound of literary language, so read aloud to them from something they might not otherwise read on their own, or just really exposing them to higher level text that they might not have been getting on their own. And for that matter, when you see an older child sort of, coming in close when you're reading aloud to your younger child, don't say, don't stay here, you don't need this, you're too old for this book, but really bring them back in, because it's both bonding and also some of those early picture books are actually a lot more complicated than you might give them credit for. So it's a great opportunity to have high-level conversations with lower level. Assume just because a book looks easy that it's not worth reading aloud. Yeah, you're right. And one of the things that I think is fun is when you reread some of those books that kids love when they were younger, they've changed and they've grown and they have a very different perspective, and they're going to experience that book in a very different way. Absolutely, and I feel like I learned so much from kids in rereading books. And when, obviously as a literacy educator, I've read aloud to so many countless children over the years, but I never, honestly, Jed, I've never had the same conversation twice. When I make the read aloud an open experience and ask them what are they thinking, what are they wondering, then the rereading becomes a joy because they think of things that are just extraordinary and they change my thinking. And so, the best thing about the rereading, if you're a parent listening or grandparent or caregiver or teacher, and you say, oh, what about those books that the kids just want to hear over and over again? Let them guide you, because the rereading is actually really good for their brain development, too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. My kids loved for me to read Fox and Socks over and over again. And I think they love the story, but I think more they love the fact that I have had a very bad speech impediment when I was young. I still have trouble with words that begin with F. And, boy, that book killed me. So I think that they enjoyed just seeing their dad struggle. That's also really brave of you. What a great story. I just want to say I give you a lot of affirmation for that, because first, you're a great dad, and we know that. But I think also it's that reading takes courage. And for anybody listening on this, it's just to say, don't worry if you stumble or make a mistake when you're reading aloud. You know what? People really understand that. We are all human. And it's a great model for kids to say, I'm going to read something hard today, or that feels hard for me today. And I want to, show you that I'm not afraid to do it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Where does your passion for reading and literacy come from? Oh, my gosh, Jed. Well, it comes right from my childhood. I've always felt, for me, reading was the most life-giving, life-saving, life-affirming, everything to me. As a child, I was very, very shy, believe it or not. And I had a very deep internal imaginative world. But my world was really sort of stoked and nourished by the books I read as a child. And it was so much more than just words on the page. I felt like meeting characters, whether I was reading the Chronicles of Narnia or the Nancy Drew books or Anne of Green Gables. All those books, it wasn't just reading, it was literally how to live. And it was about seeing characters who were courageous, who had a voice, who weren't afraid to take on justice, every single one of those books. And then, for me then, as I got older and I became a teacher, and I saw what it did for my students to see themselves in the pages of books, or to learn to look out into the world, the windows and the mirrors and the doors of the ways we read, and see how it could change their lives in literally just 5 minutes. They could go from feeling nobody understands my experience to I am understood, to I don't know that other experience, to I now do. And then finally, at the simplest, most elemental level, reading and reading aloud has always brought me together and created a community for me from the time I was a child and listening to the voice of my mother reading aloud to me, my dad, to growing up and having children with me on my journey and reading aloud to them, and I never feel alone. I never feel lonely. I never feel unsupported. Reading is just the most extraordinary way to feel close to the world.
Yeah, well, this is wonderful. Speaking of feeling close to the world, one of the things I love about Scholastic and World Read Aloud Day is you guys aren't just preaching from the pulpit and telling people you guys really take action, and you team up with different organizations throughout the country. This year, I'm really excited. I'm wearing my New England Patriots hoodie today because you are teaming up with former Patriot Malcolm Mitchell and his Read Bowl. Can you tell us a little bit about that collaboration and what other things you're doing for World Read Aloud Day?
Definitely. Well, Malcolm Mitchell he's a true hero. And, obviously we know him as a Super Bowl hero, but to me, he's a reading hero. He, as a child, he talks very honestly about his experience as a struggling reader, and really only later in his life realizing how powerful reading can be. And so he wants to share that power with others, with all children. He wants to make sure all children can learn to read. So he's teamed up with us at Scholastic and LitWorld for World Read Aloud Day this year. Malcolm is our featured author and reading hero, or as we like to say at Scholastic and LitWorld, Radvocate. And he basically is just, in every step of the way, he lives his life with meaning and purpose. And he created a foundation called Share the Magic Foundation. Scholastic is going to be giving thousands of books to the foundation to give away on World Read Aloud Day or in advance of World Read Aloud Day, so kids can have books in hand. And he also is the author of a brand new, beautiful book called my very favorite book in the whole wide world. And he writes about reading, which is amazing. And his characters are featured on the World Read Aloud Day motif this year. So Malcolm he's incredible. Every time I hear him speak or talk with him, I feel like I'm inspired and re-inspired to make sure every single child in the world gets the power of reading. He is just incredible. So we're Scholastic. This year we've created a beautiful landing page called scholastic.com/World Read Aloud Day. And there's information about Malcolm and his new book and about all the things. Scholastic has created a virtual Read Aloud Day kit this year. So you go there, sign up, and you get a free kit with amazing resources, including a video personal message from Malcolm that all your kids or anybody in your life, any age, can love and watch. And also lots of free downloadable things to read at home or read in your class with your class. And furthermore, some great activities. There's our Reading Crown activity and some really nice surprises, which I won't tell you everything about, but definitely go to scholastic.com/World Read Aloud Day, and you're going to get a lot of great treats there, and you'll find out a little bit more about Malcolm.
That's awesome. You're talking about making sure that kids all around the world are able to read and become literate. Do you have any idea what the literacy rate is here in the States and around the world?
Well, there are many different numbers on that. I mean, around the world, we're at over 700 million, and here in the U.S., it's a little bit tricky to get those numbers because we tend to look at test scores. We see that the reading scores are still very, very low across the country. So the stats, in my opinion, I think we're actually generally tend to be too generous with the statistics in the sense that are we talking about functional reading skills, as in you can read a page of a text, or are we talking about transformational reading skills, where you actually use reading every step of the way to communicate with others, to find out information, to apply for a job interview? We're still not doing very well at all in this country, and we have a really long way to go. And also, it's just that the reading data shows us in profound ways these severe inequities, both nationally and around the world, in terms of racial inequity and gender inequity and across the board. And so there should not be any barrier to learning to read. And the only barrier here is poverty and inequity. Those are the two barriers that, Martin Luther King, it was just obviously recently his birthday, and I was listening to some of his speeches and thinking about how literacy is at the core of empowerment and how he, really understood that. So when he talks about poverty and injustice, and inequity, and how the poverty rates are higher now than they were when he was alive. I mean, the poverty is not going in the right direction, and especially seeing what has happened with COVID, the children who are going to be affected by the disconnection from reading the worst are children living in inequitable situations. And for me, that is not okay at all. And I'm devoting my life to working on that and working for equity, for equality in access. Children living in high poverty circumstances don't get access to books. They don't get access to the internet. We see that during COVID. It's absolutely horrible to see what inequities have been exposed during COVID, but they were always there. And especially around reading and access to books and technology, we have to open up the internet highway to every child. That internet highway has to have a stop and exit sign, an entrance sign for every single human being on this planet. There's no excuse not to. It's not going to make me less of a reader because someone else gets to be more of a reader. It's one of the few things in life that you don't have to compete about it. If we all learn to read, the world is going to be better, safer, and stronger for everybody. So it's a great thing to pay forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's it's kind of like love. The more you give, the more you get. We don't have to worry about running out of books, especially now because we can access them through the internet and experience them digitally. One of the guests that have been on the show, LeVar Burton, obviously, talk about a literacy advocate. He was sharing with me that he believes that learning how to read is emancipating. It really frees people to go out and get the information they need and not have to be dependent on someone telling them how to think or how to act.
It's true. I mean, that's the best word for it. It is absolutely. It's the most, I think, for me, it's the deepest source of freedom. It's the best tool for freedom we have, and for liberation. And I think that is exactly right. Like when I work internationally and working with girls, especially, we have a big focus at LitWorld has a big focus on girls literacy around the world because there's such a deep inequity in terms of girls getting access. And it's about that too, that they should be able to go and ask questions about their health and the care of their own well-being without having that be a public question all the time. And that's a source of power as well. And the whole idea of knowing your rights, your human rights, knowing your rights here in this country, what is okay and what is not okay to do to the human spirit and the human body, that's all literacy. That's emancipating right there. And then finally, the main thing about freedom is that it's about your own voice, you telling your story, and you get to be heard. That's reading, that's writing. And I think we're all better off. You think about how reading cascades its way through our emotional lives, our spiritual lives. Think about people listening who, have a strong sense of spirituality, and you go to the pages of a text to comfort you, to inspire you, to make you feel whole. That's all reading, and everybody should have access to that.
Yeah. We've heard the term in the last couple of years that there are food deserts all around the country, and I think people are hearing that, and it's clicking with them, and they're working together to make sure that those deserts vanish. I think we need to start understanding that there are literary deserts or reading deserts where kids just don't have access to books. And it's hard for me to believe, as I travel around the country, visiting different schools, performing my educational magic shows, I've been to schools in urban areas where books are needed the most, and there's no library. No libraries, and also no access to, as I said, to the technologies that could actually help to gain access to, even if the library is nowhere nearby, to say, I can go online today and hear a book read aloud to me or just get access to that book. If you don't have the internet and you don't have access to something nearby that can help you get that book in hand, you will not learn to read. And the same is true for school districts. The way we think about school districts is public school districts should have so much more equity around access to books. When I go to districts in high poverty areas and I see far fewer books on the shelves or far fewer book access that kids can take and bring home and keep at home,
I say to myself, but why is that? There's no reason for that. We can do so much better. And if World Read Aloud Day is a day for us to extend that idea and to actually advocate for equal access to books and technology, what a great way to use World Read Aloud Day as our way to amplify. Today's a day to think about how can we get better access for books to kids, and also how, now we have a new administration, a new Secretary of Education who is a real advocate for literacy. We can, invite him to join us in this movement around World Read Aloud Day and just around the idea of book access.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing, and I know we've been talking, I think you and I could talk for a day, especially about literacy, but one of the things I want to ask you, you talked about the fact that there has been this inequity. And one of the things my wife, and who's a veteran special needs teacher here in Boston, and her friends who are administrators and other teachers, one of the things that they help me realize is that there are parents out there who can't read. And so there are parents out there who would love to sit down and take advantage of World Read Aloud Day, and I want my kids to read, but I can't read myself. How might we best support those families?
Well, first I'll just say that World Read Aloud Day is very inclusive, and we want to make sure everybody knows, and anybody who's listening knows that you should feel very honored and respected and supported no matter how you're going to celebrate World Read Aloud Day. And I think what I mean by that is that we also have family stories or stories in our own hearts from our own childhood that we can tell on World Read Aloud Day. And that oral storytelling is just as important and actually very helpful for children to invite them into the world of reading, because reading really is about the power of story. And so with that, I'll say for all of you listening out there, or for those who listen later who might be that person where reading feels hard or even not doable, two thoughts. One is, think about Malcolm Mitchell. Visit his website, come to Scholastic and learn more about him, because he's such a hero for the fact that you can learn to read later in life. That's one. It's never too late. The second thing is, if you're a speaker of another native language, to reading in your own language is really important and really valuable, and never ever diminish it as anything less than English. It's your language, it's your home language. So read that language in your language on World Read Aloud Day. And then the third thing is that we can practice by reading the pictures through the words. In picture books, when your child asks you to read aloud to him or her, you don't necessarily have to read all the words on the page. You could read through the pictures. Your child will love it. And invite your child, too, to read to you, because learning to read means being read aloud to. So it goes in both directions.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, we advocate families taking picture walks through books, even before you read the book for the first time. Just cover up the text and take a walk through the pictures and talk about what you think the story might be. Pam, I've had such a great time. Can you remind everybody where they can go to get all those great benefits that Scholastic is making available?
Absolutely. So it's scholastic.com/World Read Aloud Day, and LitWorldorg also has some really amazing ways to share with you some of their virtual activities and also events that are going to be happening around World Read Aloud Day. Scholastic, on its Facebook page on World Read Aloud Day and all of its social media, there are going to be fun things. On the Facebook page, I think we'll see Malcolm again that day. We're going to see all kinds of things happening, all kinds of read-alouds around Scholastic. And then don't forget to register on scholastic.com World Read Aloud Day /World Read Aloud Day, because there you can register for your free virtual kit, your RAD kit. And then the final thing I'll say is, and there's plenty of great explanation there about what you can do to celebrate World Read Aloud Day. And then finally, have a celebration, whether you're a teacher, a parent, grandparent, whether you want to read like my dad did, the sports pages, whether you support the Patriots or Cleveland, we don't mind, we don't judge. World Read Aloud Day is for everyone. It's not political. It's not on, one sports team or another. It's the whole world together. And then finally, just to know that we are definitely going to want to be amplifying World Read Aloud Day on social media, on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. So hashtag World Read Aloud Day, hashtag the WRAD Challenge, which you'll find out more about on the Scholastic site. We're going to be asking people to tag a friend so that they'll read aloud to someone on the day. So tag someone, even tag a celebrity, see if we can get people we don't know, not just people we do know, to read aloud on the day. Let's just have a joyous time. We all need joy. We all need just something to connect us all that just feels good for everybody and feels inclusive and accepting and just wonderful and also educational. And so everybody can do it, no matter your age.
Absolutely. What a great celebration of literacy, of family, and love. I love it. We've been celebrating World Read Aloud Day. It's happening February 3rd. And when you start on February 3rd, you can just take it through the rest of the year. And we've been celebrating with Pam Allyn. Pam, thank you so much for being back on the show.
Thanks again for having me, Jed, and for everything you do to celebrate and activate literacy. You're just a great role model for everybody. So thank you, as always, for being a great friend to Scholastic, LitWorld, and World Read Aloud Day. And we look forward to getting everyone really motivated for a big day ahead.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Dr. Regine Maradian. She'll be here to celebrate her wonderful book, Frankie and the Worry Bees. And she'll also be giving us some great advice on how we can help our kids deal with stress and anxiety. That's the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so very wonderful. And it really was a wonderful show. Of course, we want to thank our guest, Pam Allyn. Be sure to check out the Scholastic World Read Aloud Day website. Also want to thank my team, Alejandro Doherty, Fatima Khan. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. I want to thank Augie the doggy for having my back here in the studio. Most of all, I want to thank you. I want to thank you because I know you are committing to read aloud with your kid on World Read Aloud Day, February 3rd, and every day thereafter. I want to thank you for being your kid's teacher, your kid's chef, your kid's Uber driver, your kid's baseball coach, dance coach, everything, your kids, everything during this incredible last year. Most of all, I want to thank you because you really are making the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.